Who was really pulling the strings on September 3rd? As tanks and missiles rolled through Tiananmen, Xi's face turned pale, his speech cut short, while Zhang Youxia stood tall among state leaders, and party elders smiled from the stands. What was meant to be Xi Jinping's crowning triumph instead became his deepest humiliation. The question now, who will rise and who will be pushed off the political stage, may already be clear. And at the same time, those so-called cutting-edge weapons, paraded across Tiananmen Square to display power, were exposed as fakes. It's all in today's China Unfiltered. Before we dive into all of this, let us know in the comments where you're watching this video from. Connecting with viewers across the world is a huge source of inspiration for us. Behind the parade, Liu Yuan in control, Xi humiliated, the army ascendant. On September 3rd, a massive military parade was held in Beijing to mark the 80th anniversary of victory in the War of Resistance against Japan and the end of World War II. Yet striking revelations continue to emerge. The real power broker that day was not Xi Jinping, nor even Zhang Youxia, but Liu Yuan, son of former state leader Liu Shaoqi. According to revelation from commentator Liu Yuan, long marginalized by Xi, Liu re-emerged from the shadows as mediator, laying down 5 non-negotiable conditions that would determine whether the parade went ahead at all. First, Tibet escort. Xi must be accompanied to Tibet by Zhang Shengmin, the CMC's top disciplinary chief, and be photographed with the local garrison commanders. Second, controlled parade. The army would cooperate with Xi's troop review and keep the propaganda line of safeguarding Xi as the core. But the generals, not Xi, would appoint the parade's chief commander. Third, respect for Zhang Youxia. At the September 3rd parade, Zhang Youxia must stand alongside state-level leaders, his status elevated, his authority recognized, his face preserved. Fourth, hands off the army. Xi must respect Zhang's command. Party, government, and military must remain separate. The army would keep its autonomy, and Xi must stop planting his loyalists inside the ranks. Fifth, the army's gala. The August 1st celebration would be run entirely by the military. And indeed, sideline generals like Liu Yuan reappeared that night. Nearly every condition was met. The parade, intended as Xi's ultimate display of dominance, became instead a symbol of the army's independence and Liu Yuan's quiet triumph. The live broadcast told the story without words. Xi's face was ashen, his walk unsteady, his speech unusually short. Zhang Youxia, meanwhile, stood tall among state-level leaders, smiling with visible satisfaction. For seasoned observers, that tableau was more powerful than any tank formation. It was the unmistakable signal of a shift in power. What should have been Xi Jinping's crowning moment, instead, highlighted that the military was no longer under his sole command. Even the appointment of the parade's chief commander slipped from his hands. U.S.-based scholar Wu Zuolai noted that Zhang's placement among retired state-level leaders confirmed he had gained that rank in both status and treatment. His satisfaction was proof of a year-long contest with Xi, a battle Zhang had not lost and Xi had not won. Wu revealed that this fragile settlement was brokered by party elders like Liu Yuan and Wen Jiabao. Without them, and without the intervention of the so-called central decision-making and coordination body, the parade might never have happened at all. A leaked letter went further. Zhang Youxia's confrontation with Xi had elevated him into a pivotal role. The party's top leader could no longer command the military directly. Mao's old adage, "Political power grows out of the barrel of a gun," had been rewritten. The gun now spoke with its own voice. From 2015 to 2025, a decade of betrayals. The roots of this showdown stretch back nearly a decade. In 2015, Xi staged a surprise parade under the banner of commemorating the war against Japan. At the time, Zhang and Liu supported him. But within a year, Liu was sidelined with a powerless post at the National People's Congress. Xi then launched sweeping reforms, transforming regions into theater commands, planting loyalists like aide Zhang Shaojun into the CMC, and gradually marginalized veterans such as Liu Yuan, Liu Yazhou, and even Zhang Youxia. By 2025, however, the balance had shifted again. After Xi's health scare at the Beidai conference, Zhang tightened his grip on Beijing and Zhongnanhai, giving party elders newfound leverage. The parade made that fragile equilibrium visible to the world. Even the choice of parade commander exposed Xi's weakness. By precedent, the role should have gone to General Wang Qiang, commander of the Central Theater and one of Xi's protégés. Instead, it was downgraded to Air Force Lieutenant General Han Shengyan. Reports suggest Wang may have been caught in Xi's ongoing purges. Both he and his commissar skipped the August 1st Defense Ministry reception. That Xi, as CMC chairman, could not even appoint his own parade commander was a stark humiliation. The purges themselves tell the story. Since 2012, Xi had promoted 79 generals. Yet since 2023, wave after wave of investigations tore through the ranks. 7 confirmed detained, 16 more reported under probe, 2 disappeared, and 1 dead under suspicious circumstances. Many of those purged were Xi's own appointees, fueling speculation that Zhang Youxia was orchestrating the cleanout. The distrust ran deep. In 2015, Zhang and Liu had backed Xi, but by now, neither believed his promises. Liu argued bluntly that the army must remain independent and resist Xi's radical strategies, forming an anti-US axis with Putin and Kim Jong-un, preparing for Taiwan unification, and escalating conflict in the South China Sea. To the generals, this meant strapping the military to Xi's chariot and sacrificing soldiers' lives for his ambition. Deeper still was the crisis of trust with the party elders. Xi had imposed tight controls on Hu Jintao, Wen Jiabao, and others, requiring approval even to leave Beijing. At the 20th Party Congress in 2022, Hu Jintao was escorted out of the hall in public view, sparking outrage. Liu Yuan himself had once helped Xi consolidate authority, but after being sidelined he reportedly survived multiple assassination attempts. As Wu Zuolai put it, Xi flips his face faster than flipping a book. In his eyes, there are no brothers, only power. The parade exposes a fragile system. The September 3rd parade laid bare not just military divisions, but the broader turbulence of Chinese politics in 2025. Economic decline, layoffs, and collapsing birth rates amplify social pressure. Within the army, discontent deepens. Critics abroad remarked that the parade exposed Xi's dictatorial instincts, with some suggesting Liu Yuan would rather risk civil war than allow him to remain. Others noted Zhang Youxia's unusual positioning, deliberately understated, yet unmistakably signaling where real authority now lay. On the surface, the September 3rd parade was a display of national strength. In reality, it was the result of a three-way contest between Xi Jinping, Zhang Youxia, and Liu Yuan. Liu, leveraging his red second-generation status, imposed 5 conditions that forced a settlement. The outcome made Zhang the biggest winner and left Xi diminished. As scholar Wu Zuolai observed, the military's voice is rising. Xi can no longer directly command the gun. So, what will happen in the end? We'll just have to wait and see. Yet while Liu Yuan was reshaping the balance of power behind the scenes, what rolled across Tiananmen Square that day told another story. China's so-called new weapons were little more than rebranded variants and flashy imitations, exposing the hollowness of the parade itself. Exposed. Beijing's parade of fake weapons. On September 3rd, the CCP rolled out its much-hyped military parade in Tiananmen Square, billed as a grand display of new weapons and rising power. But behind the polished choreography, what really appeared was a lineup of repackaged old models, oversized imitations, and systems that still fall far short of global rivals. Instead of intimidating the world, especially the United States, the parade revealed just how shaky China's weapons development truly is. Missiles, inflated rhetoric, Soviet roots. Beijing paraded the Thunderbolt 1, JL-3, DF-61, and DF-31 as its trump cards, but every one of them showed glaring weaknesses. JL-3 submarine-launched missile. With an estimated 9,000 kilometers range and 3 warheads, it looks impressive on paper. Yet China's Type 094 subs can only carry 12 of these bulky missiles. U.S. submarines carry 24 Tridents with a 12,000 kilometers range and up to 8 warheads each. The Soviet legacy is obvious. Big missiles, limited performance, wide gap with the US. DF-61 ICBM, marketed as a breakthrough but in reality just a facelift of the DF-41, which itself failed to meet expectations. Thunderbolt 1 air-launched missile, essentially a nuclear-tipped DF-21 strapped under an H-6 bomber. Beijing claims it can fly 8,000 kilometers, but analysts say its true range is closer to 3,000 kilometers, barely enough to threaten Guam in a one-way suicide mission. Far from cutting edge, these new missiles are oversized, outdated, and still plagued by the same engine technology limits inherited from Russia. Tanks. Copy-paste from Russia. The spotlight on ground forces was the so-called Type 100 tank, but it's a light two-man design with a 105mm gun, smaller than most modern tanks. Russian media as early as 2012 reported China was simply copying the Russian T-95. Even CCTV's own experts admitted that the older 99B tank would still lead on the battlefield. China claimed the new tank was optimized for urban warfare, hinting at Taiwan invasion scenarios, but its value remains questionable. Jets and early warning aircraft, knockoffs in the sky. The KJ-600 indigenous carrier-based AWACS looked almost identical to America's E-2 Hawkeye. The J-15 carrier fighter, originally derived from a Russian model Moscow itself abandoned, still forms the core of China's carrier fleet. The new J-35 was hyped as an answer to the F-35, but its weapons bay is too small for real stealth strike missions. Even the twin-seat J-20S raised eyebrows. The second pilot seems less like a game-changer, more like a drone operator. Drones and unmanned vessels, expensive copies. Dozens of drones filled the parade, all strikingly similar to American models but far behind in speed, payload, and combat doctrine. Unlike the expendable drones used in Ukraine, China's versions are costly and limited, exposing the PLA's struggle with long-range control. Even unmanned ships and submersibles were wheeled out on trucks, often shown alongside torpedoes and mines just to pad the lineup. Again, the imitation is obvious, but the understanding of how to actually use them in combat is shallow at best. Anti-ship missiles, quantity over quality. Beijing showed off a parade of new anti-ship missiles, YJ-15, YJ-17, YJ-19, YJ-20, while phasing out older Russian-inspired models. But analysts say most of these are just variants of existing systems, designed to compensate for serious weaknesses. China talks big about hypersonic breakthroughs, yet the reality is grim. To breach US Aegis defenses, the PLA would need massive saturation attacks across all platforms. Even then, doubts remain whether these missiles can be guided accurately over long distances. Meanwhile, corruption scandals in China's missile industry make their true performance even murkier. Lacking confidence, the PLA simply rolled out everything it had: prototypes, test models, unfinished systems, hoping quantity would mask weakness. The fatal flaw: weak defenses. All of China's displays were offensive systems. Its defensive capabilities remain dangerously weak. Copies of Russia's S-300, like Iran's, would struggle to intercept modern US aircraft or missiles. In a real war, that weakness could prove fatal. Beijing's hollow show of power. What was meant to be a show of strength became a stage for doubt. Beijing's so-called new weapons looked less like breakthroughs and more like a patchwork of imitations and inflated claims, projecting insecurity rather than power. In our view, the September 3rd parade was two spectacles in one. Politically, Liu Yuan forced Xi Jinping to compromise, exposing a leader no longer able to command the army at will. Militarily, the arsenal on display revealed the same fragility. Oversized missiles a generation behind, tanks copied from Russia, drones and aircraft mimicking American designs without mastering their essence. The CCP could choreograph formations and inflate statistics, but it could not hide the erosion of trust between party and army, or disguise the hollowness of its arsenal. Liu Yuan's backstage deal and the PLA's counterfeit weaponry were two sides of the same coin. A regime clinging to spectacle, yet stripped of confidence. What do you think about today's topic? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. and don't forget to subscribe for future analyses. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.